Joining us right now from somewhere around the world, Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, Pastor Paul. Doing well.
Good, Mike. It's so good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're doing well. Wow. In the last 7 days since we talked with you. All right. Okay. I mean, we have the volcano, of course, and we know now that the earthquake in Myanmar has killed 3,145, and it will go higher.
Yeah.
We know that we have solar flares exploding on the sun. Yeah. We know that we have tornadoes and floods and absolute insane weather, and continues to go on as we speak, and will again the next 3-4 days across America. It's unbelievable. We have wars, and we have China has now decided to surround Taiwan. The war continues to rage on with Russia and Ukraine. Of course, Israel is making more of an aggressive move to just basically just take over Gaza. It seems like everywhere we turn, Mike, there's chaos. A volcano erupted in Iceland. So what's causing, and there's reports that the core of the earth has stopped and maybe going to reverse. Can you help us understand what is going on?
Yeah. Speaking of the core of the earth, have you ever heard of some of people named currents that flow throughout the earth, right?
Yeah.
There are, especially some of the telluric currents, right? Some people say they're established, of course, but some of the people are still indifferent to those currents. But anyway, when the sun is when it's having its fluctuations in solar activity like it is right now, we normally get it normally triggers quakes on the earth, and it has this time it caused somewhat of an abrupt acceleration in the angular velocity of the earth changing certain parts of its inertia. That can cause earthquakes too, right?
Yeah.
Some say, it's theoretical, of course, it's not proven, that surges in the telluric currents happen, causing, messing with the earth, the crust of the earth. I believe the angular momentum of the earth is disturbed every time we have any type of CME or something that hits us, right? Yeah. Because it actually abruptly can speed us up or slow us down, right?
Okay.
Either way.
Okay.
And that will cause a bit of crustal, shifting and shaking. Also, we have pressure to deal with. Pressure in the atmosphere is a known fact whenever we have a discharge from the sun. So that's it. Some of the correlations between the atmosphere and the Earth's surface is not determined in academia just yet, not in public science, but it will be as we continue to go through compression events all throughout the Earth. And concerning the core of the Earth, the Earth is tilting. The rim of the Earth is changing. It's tilting. It's going north. That's right.
Tilting north.
And soon we're going to have, that's a big wall of water too. That's a huge wall of water. Yeah. If anything spun around, if you spin a balloon, if you could spin a water balloon on its axis, it would flatten out, of course, at the rim, right? If the axis changes, so does the rim of that water swell or the water pressure on that rim. So as it comes towards us, the USA, the Earth is going to continue to go through its changes. Right, it's going to continue to do that. Some of the complications, and that's one thing. That's one thing we will most certainly go through. But dealing with the core of the Earth, it's a known fact that the core of the Earth, it is theoretical, by the way, because they really can't determine anything below a specific level. So it's theoretical on the inside, but it has slowed down. And the reason why they think it has slowed down is due to some of the chaotic currents that are going naturally through the earth. They're altering, they're changing. The surface of the earth is also changing. The magnetosphere is changing, and it matches the rotation of the core of the earth, because they're basing this off of a dynamo,
that I didn't
type
know.
of dynamo theory. Yeah. So when if it were to stop, the core of the Earth, we would have no magnetosphere, none, nothing.
So we'd have
And so
no protection from the
no,
sun's.
we would not. We would not. And that here's the danger. As they already know, there's a 70-year cycle of the reversing direction of the interior parts of the Earth. But they also know about the abruptness of how it can take place. And right now, it seems like we're having more of an abrupt change in the Earth.
Really?
Now, it's known historically, it's somewhat known through, I'll say, some pretty good findings that this process has happened back to back in some, eras of the past. If that were to happen today, it would fry everything topside. And when I say fry, we'd have no electric grid, unless you have buried lines or something like that. So that would be horrific, right?
Yeah.
That's a big danger. We know we have chaotic patterns in the shielding of the Earth. Chaotic patterns. Now, it always goes through a chaos period prior to a reversal, right?
Okay.
But the Earth has not been inhabited this way since it happened last time.
Oh,
right?
you're saying the
last
time it happened, humans weren't on the Earth yet.
Yeah. Well, just animal and plant life, and not like we are now, right?
Okay.
So who knows what the past really was, but it wasn't like it was now. Now we have civilizations, cities. We depend upon power, computers, right?
Yeah.
All of that will be gone. As it changes, the human body is intimately tied to all the changes in the Earth. It is inescapable, right? Look, the 28-day cycles of the sun, 28-day cycles of the moon, 28-day cycles within certain things of the Earth, and, of course, biology. Biology is intimately tied to all the processes of the Earth. And as the minerals or metallics are affected in the Earth, so will the way our thinking it will also be affected.
Because we're made up of all the minerals, right?
That's right. And it's everything the Earth has in it, we have within us, including lithium. We got everything in us, right?
Okay.
So if the elements of the Earth begin to react in specific ways due to external activators or external interrupters, we too are going to be interrupted physically, right? The Bible does say that there's coming a time when one person will turn and attack the other. Just brutally attack the other. It also says that a brother will not know who his brother is at a specific time. It also says that a type of madness will be, will sweep the Earth, and people will go into a type of madness. Now, this implies
madness.
This implies that people are going to go through a chaotic period of their minds. I believe that is neurological disruption, same thing that happened to some of those cosmonauts from Russia, from the early space programs, when they went beyond the shielding of the Earth when it was weak. Their neurological connections were broken. Their frontal lobe was essentially separated from the rest of them. They turned into raving lunatics, and they were clawing each other to pieces. They acted like animals. If that were to happen today, if we lost our shielding, right, we wouldn't have the bond necessary to hold our neurologic system together. It would be highly affected. We cannot function mentally outside of a type of magnetic environment. The body is not made outside of the Earth; it's made inside the Earth, and we can't function, with that outside. So, all these things, all these mechanisms come into play, and they're being disturbed. Even right now, they're being disturbed.
Wow. So the core of the Earth, when it changes, as it's changing, and as the Earth is tilting, there's major changes taking place on the Earth. And you mentioned crustal displacement. Now, we had an earthquake today of 6.9. It's up there in the North Atlantic. It's on that fault line that you've talked a lot about. It's pretty big. Several big aftershocks. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's the beginning of the end. I believe that is. That's the beginning of the end. They have no choice but to cover it. We're going through a period of time where I believe the water event is soon to happen. Now, what the water event is is everything to do with these fault lines and some of the interior oceans, right, that are within the Earth. To date, they have found five large bodies of water. One of them could fill the entire Earth up again, all of its oceans, full of water.
What?
Just one can.
Wait, where's it at? I mean, where's it
inside
at?
the Earth? Inside the Earth.
Inside the Earth. Okay.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, the scale of the Earth, as people see it, is wrong. It's incorrect. Right? It's very incorrect. And those who have been at high altitude, who have been there themselves at high altitude above 70,000 feet, they know the scale of the Earth is wrong. When people see it on maps and things like that, it's incorrect. The Earth is huge. It is huge.
Yes.
And inside the Earth, or the crust of the Earth, is quite thick. It's many miles thick. So within that crust are oceans, are these large cavities of water. Some of that water is superheated. Some of it's under enormous pressure. As these volcanoes continue to go off, as these calderas continue to heat up, they're going to break out. They're going to start breaking out, and they're going to start going upward. Right?
Yep.
We're going to have water displacement all over the Earth, and this will be a worldwide event. Most certainly, I can't see how it can be avoided. So we have two culprits for this, which will further some of the shifting of these fault points within the Earth, because that's weight distribution, right? Which is it's going to wreak havoc on fault lines, all of them, right? Any type water shifting, when the water shifts, that's going to wreak. In fact, I'll give you an example. Right now, and probably no one has heard of this, we have storms coming in from the west, correct?
Yes.
We have a developing pattern in the atmosphere that's going to cause some pretty large low pressure systems to form outside or in the Pacific Ocean. That's going to force water near Hawaii, right?
Okay.
It's going to force a lot of water near Hawaii. When this happens, it will cause a quake near California. It will always do that, because when the water shifts, right? When the water shifts, that's a whole bunch of weight that's distributed from the mid Pacific over to the west coast of the USA. When this takes place, it's going to help that subduction zone do what it does just a little more, and we're going to have some pops. Pops will start to go off as the ground, equilibrium kicks in. And that land release is causing an earthquake on the west coast. It always happens that way.
So the water is going to shift.
Yes.
Over by Hawaii, but that will cause an earthquake, a big one maybe, over near along.
I'd say probably about a 6, maybe a 6.0,
okay,
or something like that.
Still,
maybe about a 6.0. But it's just to watch it. You'll see these large patterns of storms begin to form.
Okay.
They're going to push water down towards Hawaii. That'll be cold water too. As it goes down towards Hawaii, it's going to be a lot of wind associated. Right, some very nasty winds.
Wow.
Associated. As that happens, the surface waters are going to flow towards Hawaii. Right, which will always causes a dip or a difference in the level of the water in the oceans. Some of the buoys will start to register a negative value as far as where they were, hours before or something like that. So when they put all those numbers together, you always see these big bowl type configurations from the data coming back from the buoys. That's just from the wind, right? Water weighs a lot. Mm-hmm. So with the shifting of the water, any weak spots in these fault lines, it will essentially begin to agitate. And then you have, these small quakes here and there, right? Yes. So all these are factors for earthquakes. All of them are. So you have winds, you have weather systems that are moving lots of water. They can assist in earthquakes. You have solar activity, right? Yes. Which will affect that can affect the angular momentum of the Earth when they abruptly, hit us like that. All these things. And earthquakes, of course, they contribute to the magma moving in the Earth. They disrupt the land masses, and you have magma going all over the place, which is why Alaska's volcano is active. Italy is about to go off. Alaska's certainly going to go off. That's The
Over by Anchorage, is that what the Mount Sur or whatever?
Yeah. That one is because they're spewing out gases. The gases are becoming more potent, right?
Okay.
More potent, and so that's an obvious one. Italy is an obvious one now.
Yeah, you keep bringing that up. Yep.
Yeah, it's about to go off too. That there are gases that are changing as far as the mixture, as far as what's coming out in the potency. So we have all this going on all at the same time. We are certainly in a very different time, but the Earth is undergoing some massive changes. We also have double the melt of the ice underwater in the southern hemisphere of the Earth, and of course, it's melting from the ground up and from the top down. Right
now, Mike, I just saw that in Antarctica, under the ice that is melting from the bottom up,
yes,
they have discovered dozens and dozens of brand new species, new fish, new eels, new that had never been seen before. Mm-hmm. What is it? I mean, how much undiscovered species are there? I mean,
there's a lot throughout the Earth. You're looking at thousands. Nobody knows. It could be millions of undiscovered species. A true fact is, every single week they discover 70 plus species, brand new species, every single week.
Really?
Yep. This is every single week. So we don't know. As far as the oceans, what do we? They say we understand point is like a small percentage.
Yeah, very small.
Right. But we don't understand too much of the ocean. We haven't mapped all of it. It is enormous, essentially, right? It's a lot to search for, and it's very difficult to do that.
So what's causing the Antarctica and Antarctic? What's causing these? It's heating up from underneath. Is that
melting from the ground up? That's right. Not from the top down, but from the ground up. And what that tells me is that magma, right? Now think of this. We have some sort of influence is coming externally from this solar system. It's affecting our sun. Our sun is clearly going through a cycle. All these CMEs and everything else, they're going to continue to feed radiation, because radiation comes in by way of solar winds to the poles, sucked into the poles through magnetic, highways right into the Earth, and it heats up the magma, right? All that energy is going into the Earth, is heating up the magma like an overcharged battery. This continues. So the magma is going to continue to increase in both pressure and of course, temperature. As it increases, it's going to make room for itself, right? It's going to open up new tunnels, new cavernous systems. It's going to move all over the place is essentially what we see. So we're being heated up from the inside out. Not from the outside in, right, but from the inside out. Now, this heating up is causing water vapor to evaporate at an accelerated rate, which is causing excess storms.
Okay.
Right? These storms that we have right now are quite huge. I don't think anybody can ignore that.
Yes.
They can't ignore that one. They're pretty huge. And you're looking at, for example, 10 inches of rain to cover 1/4 of the USA. What is that about? That's
insane. I mean,
you're looking at 1.1 million, 1.1 or 1.2, 1.3 million gallons or tons that are stuck up there in the air that's just released, right? Yeah. That potential is going up. It's going up. It keeps going up because the water's heating up. Okay. It evaporates, right? And it gets forced up into the upper atmosphere, in which it condenses with dust and everything else and falls as rain. This process is going to continue because the waters continue to heat up. We're going to hit a point where it starts to trickle down. The winds are coming. This is going to be one of the most challenging times we ever faced.
So these storms we're having right now, big tornadoes, but we're getting massive rain, flooding, and this has been going on for a period of time now. And as we speak, they think we're going to get 15 inches of rain is going to fall somewhere between Louisville and Nashville, and the whole area, from Texas on through Louisiana, Missouri. Parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Southern Illinois, and Indiana, just right through that whole area. Massive. So we're getting tornadoes, we're getting bad storms and winds and thunder, but the rain, the amount of water. So is that what you're saying is going to keep happening?
It's going to increase. It's going to increase. Now, but something else happens as it increases, Pastor Paul.
Okay.
Here it is. The most dangerous thing we're going to see. This is going to be the key. The water is going to be one thing to deal with. Storms is going to scare people every time they hear of a forecasted storm. But you're looking at, say 1 million square miles of area, right? Full of clouds that are going to drop some rain. That's about 500,000 kilograms. It's going to start dropping that everywhere. That will increase. But with that density in the upper atmosphere taken away, I mean, it's going to be full, right? It's going to really compress the atmosphere, causing fast winds all over the place.
Okay.
Right? Because the air is still going to move. So if you were to take a fan and blow it inside of an empty room as a small fan, no big deal, right?
Right.
But if you take that same room and you shorten the ceiling all the way down to about 2 feet high, and then you compress the walls where it's a 2 foot by 2 foot corridor that air is going to blow through, right? You're going to increase the wind speeds and how strong that wind is going to be. When wind has a lot of area, right? It is harmless, just about. But as it's being compressed, the power of that wind is going to increase exponentially.
So is that what
that area gets?
Now, besides storms,
density,
is
that's
that
right?
It's good. Is that why it's affecting what looks like airplanes? I mean, we're getting a lot of airplanes crashing, Mike.
Well, the airplanes, that's a few things.
There's more than one. More than one reason.
Weather's just one thing, but we've reached a point with technology where the average person can sniff out certain systems on an aircraft and bring it down, period.
Okay.
I know that's, people don't want to hear that. That does not take sophisticated equipment. You can go to Amazon right now and get something called Arduino 32, right? Or something in that. I'm not going to say all of it, but you get one of these inexpensive devices that costs about $9. You can program not more than maybe half of a paragraph of code in that small device. You can power that device up. You can, once an aircraft is in proximity to it, you can sniff out the entire navigation system of that aircraft and cause the instruments to report things it shouldn't be there. For example, if an aircraft is at 24 FL, you can have that aircraft, if it's on autopilot, to start to go down, right? By reporting a higher altitude. All of a sudden, the autopilot tries to correct. How do we know this? Because this is happening to aircraft just about every single week.
So, in other words, they can scramble the
spoof. They trick the GPS and the guidance systems on that aircraft. In other words, they mimic or they infiltrate the signal set of that aircraft, and it starts to pick up this device as though it's picking up GPS. Well, they're going to report the wrong coordinate system to the aircraft. The aircraft is going to attempt to correct. People are scared right now to fly. They really are, because the aircrafts will go up. It'll do the autopilot. On autopilot, it's not supposed to start descending.
No,
right?
No.
And at rapid rates on autopilot, not like that. And then these pilots are reporting that their altimeters are not working, right? This instrument is fluctuating. Their GPS reported the wrong country or something of that nature. This is happening all over the world. And believe it or not, Russia, they're the ones that said that they would do this.
Really?
Russia said that at the beginning of the year, and no one paid attention.
This is not being reported, Mike, in the news.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. This is new. This is new information right here.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Because they said they were going to do it. It began to happen, right? We knew we were going to reach a point where the average person would have similar technology as the experts. Yeah. And now it has happened. It has happened.
Wow. This is a game changer. I mean, it's not just that they can hack it. They can they just can scramble it, or they can disengage it, or they can
trick it.
Trick
That's
it.
a trick.
Spoof.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Spoof
a trick.
it.
That's right. That's what they're doing.
So you're thinking Russia said they were going to do it, and it's happening. So likely that they could be involved for sure.
I think that was a message. Sometimes
But that's the only one.
They'll say things like this, right, to let other countries know, hey, we have this capability. It's happening. It's happening both to civilian and military aircraft. Again, there's just no way you're going to have a Black Hawk pilot fly right into a jet. That makes no sense whatsoever.
We know that something went.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Well, Mike, let's talk about. We're talking about military things at this for a moment. Look, China. We know the wars are going on right now, but China makes this move again, where they basically blockade Taiwan. They bring in their warships and their planes, and now they're shooting their artillery. But they never gave this an operation name. Normally, when you do a drill, you let everybody know you're going to do it, and you give it a name, and you pretty well say the time you're going to be there. This was never communicated. Any thoughts on that? I mean,
well, China really they with Taiwan, if you notice, they do whatever they want to do with Taiwan.
Yep.
Because by their own words, that's their country.
Yep. That's what they say.
It's their land. And so they're acting in accordance to, what they're saying. Plus, they're making some pretty bold moves in China. They're gaining ground. They're financing the Middle East. They're rebuilding Iraq. China is. They're investing billions of dollars into Iraq. Who knew Iraq would come back from the ashes?
Is it for the oil? What's the reason?
All the way.
What's the reason for Iraq? Why invest in Iraq?
Because for a long time, the USA has been suppressing Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Kind of controlling it. And it would not let these countries rebuild. Well, when President Trump came in, they knew he was coming in. And so they're taking full advantage of the fact that he's not going to suppress people building up their, countries.
It's true. He's not. No.
The other people did. They suppressed other countries to keep them under control. That's what NATO is pretty good at. And so when Trump came in, he knew that was coming to an end. And it has come to an end because Trump says his philosophy is give the control back to the people, under stipulation, but give the control back to the people. Let the people govern their things, and let's not poke our nose in everything. And that's his thing, which is it's normal. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we have vipers all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And they hate. Listen, Pastor Paul, they hate the USA. It doesn't matter how much they smile. They can smile all day. I'm telling you right now, they hate the USA. And given the opportunity, they will sabotage anything and everything concerning the U.S. They hate the USA because the USA, for the most part, a lot of people in the USA have done nothing but propagandize every other country like they're trash. For example, China is a lot of people have an idea of China. Every country has their areas that look bad, right?
Yeah.
And we know they have a dictator in China. We know they have a dictator, and we know what they do over there in China, but it is not like the USA portrayed it. That's not true. Other countries are portrayed as being tiny or small, insignificant, backwards things.
Right.
They're, that's propaganda when they do that, right? It's kind of like Putin. Remember, Putin was supposed to have died 28 times. Putin was kicked out of office 32 times.
Yeah.
Putin's army was not going to make it every single day, and they ran out of ammunition. None of that was true. Ukraine has won the war, according to these people, 2 years ago. So what are we doing? And then you have all this propaganda. None of it's real. None of it's true. But then that's the way the American people, they start to see these other countries, right? But in the meanwhile, these other countries have been hungry. They've been developing their nations. Right, Trump let the cat out of the bag. What did he say? He told everybody we get all of our technology from other countries.
He did say
That's what he said. We don't build anything. He sat there and told people this.
Yeah, he did say that.
He told people the state of our military and how that we have to start getting things back. Essentially, he said we have to start manufacturing things here in the USA.
Yeah, start making our own semiconductors and our own planes. And right. Right.
You know what could happen right now if the other countries got together, Pascal, and they said, "Well, we're just not going to give the USA any technology. We're done for. We're done for."
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
We got to get
there's a large
a
group of people
that's
right
why
now
he's
that are
worried
saying,
about
"We
the
cannot believe
steel.
this has happened."
He's worried about the steel mills. He's worried about the manufacturing of making our own tanks, our own ships, our own planes, our own semiconductors. We got to get control of our own software, our own everything. We need to control our own destiny. We can't just piecemeal it out and all. And that's what we've been doing for about 50 years.
Yeah, it was. If you notice, you have certain people. You have one side, right? They believe in allowing everybody to have their own destiny, right? To do whatever they want to do, so long as they do it with respect to everybody else. Now, that sounds good, right?
Sounds good.
Here's the problem. Especially with what this country is. That's why we move so far away from the living God in everything that we do, is because they allowed everybody else to worship their own gods. They even propped up their God. They celebrated their gods and told us not to put the name of Jesus in places of importance in the USA.
Yes, they did.
That was a mistake. That was a mistake. So, we're not assimilating to some other nation. They're assimilating to us. And it's very simple, ideology. If you like the USA, you want to become an American, then be an American all the way. You can't come to America and be loyal to your own nation. But anyway, they did this. And now that you have someone that wants it back to what it was intended to be. It's foreign to people. You have kids who have no idea what he's talking about. You do, because they don't know. So there's a gap in education, right? There's a gap in the education of what's happening here. But I believe we are in the end days. I believe that people are going to give their attempt, but also believe that due to duress, right? Due to external conditions, and the sheer cruelty of people, we're going to have to make some extenuating adjustments to how we operate for season. Let's go ahead and face it. There are teams within America now, assassination teams within America right now, right?
Really?
They're trying to find where they are. There's people from Iran. There are people loyal to the Houthis. There are people loyal to, certain hidden divisions in the Middle East, but they're here in the USA. They're loyal to those groups in the Middle East, and they want to die destroying the leadership of the USA. Remember, their ideology is we have to be on fire before they can attack Israel and be successful, period. They're not going to stop until they do that, no matter what negotiations made, right? So you have that type element in the world. Which goes back to Satan himself, actually. Right. So this thing is, it's just one of those times we live in. I believe at its heart, it's all spiritual. I do, which kind of gives me a little trepidation for this country. And the reason why is because is this country centered enough on Christ to withstand what's coming?
No.
Right. The fires are coming. The floods are coming, and worst of all, the winds are coming. Winds, bad winds, winds that will knock over a cruise ship in the ocean, winds that will cause tsunamis without an earthquake, without an eruption, winds that are going to start to topple things that won't slow down, those type winds. Density is increasing in the upper atmospheres beyond belief, right? So that's going to really compress the jet stream, causing higher wind speeds. We're going to notice this in average storms. When we start having 80-mile-an-hour winds every single thunderstorm, then what? And when you have hail, that's going to increase the hail size, right? With an increase in the winds, hail sizes increase. So we'll see that this summer, and tornado season has not started yet.
Really?
And we're having tornadoes all over the place.
So it's good.
Normally it's at the end of May, right? May or somewhere in May. We start seeing that tornadic activity that's really terrible and heavy, and the thunderstorms that do damage. But we're seeing that already. The rainfall has already topped the scales, right? And we have more flooding for the next 7 days or several days because of a stalled system. A stalled system that was almost perfectly predicted, before it ever got here. And we have we have about 4 more right behind it.
Really?
Stalling systems. Yeah, they're going to be stalled by what's essentially a wall of heat. A wall of heat. So that's going to continue. The floods are going to continue before they abruptly stop, but they're going to continue. They're going to take their toll.
Wow. Well, and they are rescuing people as we speak here the last 24 hours. Nashville and other parts in Tennessee, it's been really, really bad. And as you said, this stalled system is going to continue to dump tons of water, straight line winds and tornadoes. It's going to continue to happen. What about the meteorites? You know, I know we've talked about it in the past. There's like those two I think I remember you saying there's two clouds, but really it's debris, I guess. Can you talk about that some? Because we're seeming to have more and more near misses happening right now. We had 2 last night.
Here we are.
You know, your thoughts?
We are. Well, we're going to have an increase in let's just say that a big pile of junk is out there, and we're flying right into it. We can't turn left or right. We can't do it. Right, so we're headed right for it, and it's headed right for us. When you see how we traverse the galaxy here, this galaxy, it really gives you an insight into, because some of the parts that we're covering have not been, some of the parts we're going through right now that we've not gone through in a very long time, right? Thousands of years. So we're not familiar with this portion of space we're in. There are trashy portions of space. I mean, like debris is all over the place.
Really?
Right? Big lines, nothing but rocks. It's kind of like a big asteroid belt that somehow was stretched out, and we have to go right through it. So there's no way we're going to miss that debris that's in it, right? It will start out with, we're going to keep having these near misses and things coming in and out. But then one day, Pastor Paul, we're going to have an unscheduled meteor shower that nobody predicted. Right.
Really?
In other words, that has no name. It belongs to no object. And then that will continue. Here's the strange thing. It's going to continue. So every night people are going to get this light show. They're going to begin to see different things in the skies. Right now, there's a portion that is so thick nobody can see through it. So some of the sky to us is obscured. You can't see through it. Once we get around the curve, so to speak, we're going to see some new lights in the heavens.
So what's so see if I got this right. So there's this massive, like behind me here, massive debris coming, and it's so thick in some parts on its way that we can't see the lights behind it. We can't see.
That's right. It's a lot of debris in certain areas, right? It's quite thick, and you cannot see behind it until you get around it. And then you'll see some new heavenly lights that we've not seen in thousands of years.
Now, when do you anticipate this meteor storm that we don't even know is coming? Or we don't have a name for it? It's not from a comet or something.
There's Pastor, there has been recently, this is recent, there has been a clampdown, right, on weird things like our actual velocity. Right. Those who know that are no longer sharing that information. There have been certain data points you cannot have access to anymore. So nobody can use it in their modeling. They're making sure that I guess that nobody can predict with some absoluteness.
Are you saying they're shutting down some of the?
Oh yeah, they're not going to let it be known.
Some of the things that we could used to be able to watch and look in, they're shutting them off, or
velocity of the velocity of the Earth, right, is not just the Earth. You're looking at the whole solar system, and that takes a lot of devices to actually capture that data from, extrapolate our velocity based upon movements of stars and everything else. Well, they know if they hold back certain data points, all you can do is guess. So it's almost like they don't want anybody to be exact in this. That lets me know we're close. We're very close. See, with space, something can seem millions of miles away until it's right there in your face, right? So there have been lots of people who have miscalculated things. kind of like some of these flybys that we have. There were folks, there was a flyby that we had, a near miss, that we had, I believe, 2 months ago, that was actually calculated, but it was like a 4 months off or something like that. Right? So mistakes like that can be made. It can be made. So imagine, we have an unexpected meteor shower in a month. It doesn't stop. It lasts for about 15 to 20 days. And then all of a sudden we start having debris come into our atmosphere. And then it stops, only to start up again. And then stop and start up even worse.
Wow.
Things like that will happen. So it's not like people are going to get the notification for anything like that. Plus, if it's going to destroy anything on the earth, they will not tell anybody. They're not going to tell you.
No.
The only thing we absolutely have is the Word of God.
Amen.
They're not going to tell anybody. They just won't do it. Plus, they don't. They know the Word of God. They just won't admit it. They know the accuracy of it. They won't admit it.
Yeah, and they also know the science. They know the Word of God, and then they also can see it. They're not letting us see it. They're not reporting it. They're not telling us. They're not preparing us for it. So we're going to be left in this limbo when we're going to be seeing these rocks flying by and these asteroids, and we're going to be saying, what's going on? Are we going to get an explanation? Are they going to say it's the aliens?
No, we're going to be left on our own. They're not going to have it. When it gets bad like that, authority will not be among the people unless somebody wants to be there. They're not going to be among the people. They won't. Yeah. Well, we're gonna notice that. I'll tell you this: in the USA, when you start seeing people move away from certain parts of the USA because they're not viable, right? When they announce we have a crop problem for real, then we'll start to know we're in the. I know a lot of people identify that we're in the end times, but it's it's just like the scripture, Pastor. It is sweet to know it at the beginning because it's coming, but to be in it is quite bitter because now you know what you have to face. And as these events begin to multiply, people are going to lose. They're going to start. They may lose momentum in trust and things of that nature if they have not resolved that right away. It takes a relationship that's resolved right away with no playing, because when these things begin, it'll seem like every dark force everywhere is going to try and take advantage of people and maneuver them. But don't be surprised if certain states have areas of that state where nobody can live in anymore. They will evacuate certain parts of certain states due to water, due to sinkholes and things of that nature, right? Well, insurance companies will not insure
that's true.
Everybody, and that's people are finding that out already. So some people lose their homes; they have lost everything.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask this question: Greenland, okay? I know Trump is looking at. He wants Greenland. It's strategically to protect the Western Hemisphere. But isn't it kind of interesting that there was that movie that came out that there was this massive asteroid coming? And it was catastrophic, and that the only place
that funny?
Was Greenland.
And it was meteors all over
meteors.
the place, right?
Yeah. And they have to go underground.
That is interesting, isn't it? I tell you what, though, the military works in many different lands. That you'd be surprised.
It's all over the world.
For example, the Air Force,
world, right?
Like what the Air Force has is where they're working at, right? You'd be surprised. If an emergency ever came to be, I think nations would take what they had an ability to take at that time. But I'll tell you something, Pascal. If there was a perturber out there,
okay,
right?
Okay,
and if these are the end times,
okay,
and if the effects, all these happenings on the earth are due to this perturber.
Okay.
There's no time. They're not going to have time to build.
It's too late.
Anything brand new. Whatever facilities are out there is what they're going to have. Now, I will give you some tactics, though, like missing persons and dead people. I know for a fact that's how they move people into safe areas. They come because they'll never come topside again. Once they go into these protected areas, they never come topside again, so they report them dead. They report them dead to the people out there, and people never ask about them again, right?
Yeah.
But they would have to do this at least 4 to 6 years in advance. You cannot go down there a couple of days before the event.
Because you can't
acclimate.
You got to get acclimated. Okay,
that's right. You have to acclimate with the air, the ecology, and everything else down there. You just can't start living in a place like that and expect to survive. So that means if something is coming, then most of the important people are either dead or have bowed out. So we think, right? Civilians. So the civilians think, but these people are actually gone to protected areas, and in their place, they've left all the secondaries. Yeah. So that means right now, all you see are secondaries, like people you wouldn't normally pick for things. That's what you see topside. Yeah. That's what you see topside. Give that some thought, because most of the folks who knew what they were doing with the country, where are they? Where are they at?
So you're saying that this process has begun, that the building, if
something is coming.
If something, let's just say if something
is coming.
Well, it's sort of
it would have to.
I mean, predictive programming is something that we certainly now know for sure is done through Hollywood, through Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and books. There's a lot of predictive programming going on. So by the time it gets to us, it's probably already too late to whatever else they're doing. They do know the Bible. I've heard you say that there are prophecy teams in the U.S. government to study the Bible to try to figure out the prophecy. Right. Is that right?
That's right. Who do you think pays archaeologists? The government.
Yeah, the government.
They pay universities subsidies and things of that. And so if they don't cooperate with the government, they get no money. They can't do anything. Right? If the government cuts off the money, the schools, universities, institutions, they can't do a thing.
No.
The government funds all of that. They fund all of it. So there you are.
So it's going on. Let's talk about also, I do believe that they can read. I know they study every move we make as far as all of our data. Okay, text messages, voicemails, and emails, but I'm starting to think, Mike, and tell me if I'm crazy. I believe they can read our mind. I believe they can read our mind because there's times I'm thinking of something and then it pops up on my phone. There is no, and it'd be something obscure, something that, it's not where I normally go, or something that maybe I'm thinking about buying, or something I thought about or heard about somewhere, and all of a sudden it just pops up. How can that be?
Would you be surprised to know, right, that people are telling these computer systems everything they need to know? And it looks like sometimes it's in the spooky field, right? But here's the deal. One thing they don't realize how much information they communicate, right? For example, let me give you an example. Most people out there, they can understand this scenario. When something significant happens in their life, the first thing they want to do is like an unwritten law. They want to go tell somebody. Why? People get upset when they cannot tell somebody else about their happening, right? People call that venting, right? They call it venting. They call it, they have to tell somebody for therapy, whatever the case is. But the point is they share everything, and they get upset when they can't tell anybody. I hear that statement all the time. Who can I tell? Who can I tell? No one will listen to me.
That's true.
Or
that's true.
People will say, I tried to tell my family. What law says you have to tell anybody? And they get upset when they can't tell somebody, right? So number one, they tell somebody everything all the time. Now, people don't necessarily listen to you at all. They don't listen to things, but systems have always been listening. They parse your data, right?
Yes.
You let them know everything you like and dislike. You'll pick up something and say, wow, that tastes good. Well, that's a positive point, right? That's going to be, you may look for it after that. Then the next day you'll say, I'd like some coffee. And then that brand pops up on your phone.
Yeah.
Because before they had the launch of AI, that was still happening. And it was happening on cable systems. And they were using a type of AI. Now with AI involved, now you're going to see the real good stuff. Like, you may get a suggestion. Hey, why don't you take it easy today? You don't do anything until 12 o'clock. That means you have time for so-and-so. Here's your breaks or your deals on this, that, and the other. Because people are engaging AI, chat GTP, like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, no.
They are. They're using it like a therapist.
Yes.
That's what. And now, here's the deal. If you don't use it, somebody near you is using it, right? So you have a whole, remember the 4D profiles I used to talk about? A four-dimensional profile or 4D profile is when they have all your biological points and everything else from Walmart and all the other grocery stores, but they also have what you're predisposed to do, say, and continue to live for, right? Now they have AI to handle all that information. And it is, the guy at Google said it was sentient. Jeff Bezos spoke about it. Some of the smartest people on Earth, and the folks who designed the system in the first place have keep telling people it's sentient.
Yes. And
now they're coming out, and they just released, last month, they released a company that has released biological computers that have brain cells in them.
I heard that.
They are selling. But that was the experiment back at MIT in the 1970s. That was artificial intelligence, 2 of them in the 1970s. There was brain tissue on microchips in the 1970s in MIT. They made great advances. And then it was some government agency came and, kind of took up that mantle.
Why use brain cells? Is there a reason that you
brain cells interface with microprocessors perfectly without rejection.
Okay.
Now, what are the chances of that? Why would a brain cell interface with a microprocessor perfectly without rejection?
I guess they're making the computer processing system to mimic the human brain cell because there's nothing better, nothing as perfect as our.
I got a better idea.
You got a better idea? Okay.
Yeah. How about the processor? Right.
Yeah.
Was inspired by some of the ones who know all about the brain cells. But you're talking about 1950s to 1970s
I agree
technology.
with that. Yes.
Right. So they had that back then. They had artificial intelligence back then.
That's pretty amazing.
And there are 13 or 14 people who think they have created AI, but all of them were working on similar, prospects back then.
Mm-hmm.
Same things. And all of them were inspired. Every single last one of them were inspired.
You mean
every single last one of them received what they received by dreams. Every single one of them did.
I mean, Al Gore didn't really invent the internet. Is that what you're saying?
I think Bush Jr. said the internet's plural.
Oh yeah, okay.
but no, Al Gore didn't do it.
No.
Actually, a lot of people say that CERN did it, right? But you have to go back a little before them.
Before
some of the guys
CERN.
at CERN, some of the same guys at CERN, right? They were working with universities before they did that. And that was what you're talking about a long time ago.
Now you're talking about a portal now. When you're talking about CERN, I mean, I've been always talking about Apollyon coming out of the bottomless pit, and I wonder sometimes if CERN may not be the bottomless pit, but certainly it's got to be a portal, right? I mean, it's got to be a portal into some other dimension or into the dark side. I'm not sure. A lot of pagan worship went on there. Can you? And I think maybe is a lot of pagan worship still going on there, Mike?
It always goes on. It is devoted to the worship of those things, to Krishna and Vishnu and all those guys. But these guys were both the creator and destroyer, right?
Yeah.
So they were one and the same. They devoted it to them because that's where they got the information. It's right there in the books. The idea of CERN was written down thousands of years ago, and it's in the Vedic text. It's in there.
Really?
That's why most scientists when they're being educated, they're told to read those books from India. They're told to read them. That's why Oppenheimer read them. Einstein read them. They know all about that. Why? Because they have blueprints in those books. All sorts of things are in. They have blueprints from thousands of years
Ancient
ago
texts.
of things that actually work. Yes, blueprints.
Blueprints in the ancient texts.
So something did happen here a long time. You can't really get into that story due to a lack of evidence and more conjecture than anything else. But something happened here a long time ago that was legitimate, and they know about it. And science is based. A lot of science is based on what they were doing. They're certainly inspired from that.
I mean, emerald tablets. Some of those things that they've had.
Yeah, I'd say, but though emerald tablets are depreciated, that's just in my opinion,
Okay.
From Thoth and those individuals, because they were more philosophers than anything else, right? And, when people get trapped up in philosophy, they create a web in their mind, and they get trapped in their own thoughts. So they go nowhere with all the information they have. Unlike that, India has practical information.
Okay.
Real, for example, they built their structures. These guys built with no mortar, right? They're still standing today, and they haven't moved at all. Who can do that? Who can do that? Plus, they found out. Plus, do you know you can hit a brick in India on some of those structures, and they have a perfect pitch with a perfect tune.
That's cool.
They go up the musical scale. Music is based off mathematics anyway,
yes,
right? It is. It's based off frequencies and how frequencies interact. All that came from India. All of it came from India.
Wow. That's interesting. And what about like in Peru? I mean, Machu Picchu. I mean, how do they get those rocks up there? How'd they build that?
There was a man in Florida that replicated that and tried to tell the world. Nobody listened. There was another guy that was in Utah. He did the same thing. Nobody listened. Everybody thought these guys were old crackpots, yet they moved 100,000 tons stone from one place to another without any machinery whatsoever and a few ropes. Right?
Yeah.
If you have, for example, if a person tinkers with anything, and I know they do, and they build a small amplifier with a say a 222 transistor. It's an NPN transistor, and it puts out maybe a half a watt, but the frequency is at 10 hertz. They can disrupt every mouse for about a quarter mile with that small little device and a speaker. Every mouse and every keyboard, every wireless device can be interrupted for a quarter mile. But beware, a Black Hawk with 2 tanks will come right over your house. It'll be a medical Black Hawk. That's a fact. They'll give you a warning too. You'll get a small warning, but that's 1 watt. What is that? That's nothing. 1 watt is nothing.
It's nothing.
But it can absolutely disrupt wireless communications for up to a quarter mile.
That's very fascinating, and I did not realize that.
Mm-hmm. That
So
can absolutely happen.
by using the frequencies.
That's right. Frequencies are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
They are quite powerful. Why? Because they're when you play a frequency, I guess what people don't realize is something out there has a resonance. If it receives that frequency and begins to vibrate, it's going to amplify any signal you put out there. There's something that's always going to have the same frequency. It's going to amplify whatever you send out. It'll make it that much more powerful. That's how creation is made, harmonically.
I got a question for you, Mike. This is off the subject, but there's a mark of the beast system that's going to be implemented at some point.
Yes.
How would you do it? How would you make a system to where there'd be no cash and every individual had to somehow register, be identified, could never be duplicated, and if you don't have it, you can't play? How would you?
Everything's in place right now. Everything is in place right now. Everything is. The first stage, I would get people used to mobile identification, right?
Okay.
Mobile identification.
Well, we got that. We got that for sure.
Then I would get people used to, right, doing their cash or their money exchanges based off that mobile identification.
Well, we could do that.
So,
yeah.
then, and then I would compile all of that into one device and have everybody carry around that one device. And then, because it would be that one device, because you have hackers and everything all over the place, I would I would implement some security parameters that would ensure that the people can't lose anymore, right? Based off, what's happening externally from them. In other words, say somebody right now started hacking cell phones.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't bother anybody until they cannot use their phone and they cannot contact anybody, right?
Right.
So here's what happens when the cell phones went out. Something happened. Remember when the cell phones went out, right?
Yes, I do.
3/4 of this country panicked. I mean, panicked.
It was a
badly.
chaos. Yeah, everybody.
Panicked.
Well, they were fiending. It was almost like a drug.
Panicked.
I mean, they were fiending.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They panicked.
Yeah.
And the truth be told, if you don't have a cell phone, right, you're back to the nothingness before the cell phones. Now, nobody wants to admit that, but it's true.
People are lost without a cell phone.
If you turn off your cell phone, right, if you turn it off, you're back to the nothing. You're cut off. You don't know anything. You're in the dark.
Yeah.
You're walking around with light
Absolutely.
everywhere, but you're in the dark. Why? Because your brain does something called entrainment. So entrainment gets you used to every frequency around you. Your brain will emulate that frequency. It'll become part of its operation. If you turn off all the electricity in a home, everybody's ears are going to they're going to hear all sorts of sounds. They're going to be amplified. And it's not very comfortable, right? It takes a few days for all those sounds to really level out. The reason why is because of entrainment. So your body is actually used to frequencies all around you. So when you shut that cell phone off, which is one of the strongest transmitters that you have, you're going to feel like you're in the dark, cut off. You're going to be depressed. You have to face a little depression, a little trepidation, a little nervousness, right? People can talk themselves out of it, this, that, and the other, but it starts to get to them physically. Physically, it will get to them. So I would have everything compiled into one device. Everybody would use that one device, right? And then I would have something akin to a major event that would happen. And in that major event, there would be a threat that people would not have their communication device, which, by the way, in that communication device, if you didn't have it, you couldn't bank. If you didn't have it, you could not check on anything. If you didn't have it, you couldn't even check on your own identity, and nobody could check on you. You essentially become a non-person, right?
Yes.
An important device like that can easily be manipulated into people's minds to be the most important thing they have. So if something were to happen where your cell phone was hacked and everybody else's cell phone was hacked, and people, they really got tired of it because they started losing. I mean, really, it hurt people. They would say, hey, we need something nobody can tap into.
Yes.
They would come out with a biometric device like a bracelet.
A bracelet.
A bracelet, something a person would wear. Now, the reason to wear it is so they can have something they can remove, yes, but they never have to touch it. That's key.
And you won't lose it. You don't lay it down and lose it. It's on you.
Right.
You lock it in.
But here's the key. Have technology they don't have to touch. Ironically, if you don't have to touch something, but you know it's important, you'll do everything to keep it. If you don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're wearing something that actually does something, you'll do everything to protect it. And then a little bit on down the road from there, you say, hey, you want that device permanently so you'll never be at risk of losing it? They'll say, yes, I want it right now. Now, you have to degrade religion and faith at the same time. You can't have a bunch of believers in Christ.
That's true.
You can't have people calling the Antichrist the Antichrist. No. So you have to alter the faith. You have to do it subtly but steadily.
That's happening. Right? That's happening.
Yeah. That's what you have to do.
So everything you just said is happening. Mm-hmm. We don't have the bracelet yet, but we could buy a watch if we want to. But you're saying it's almost a permanent device. You can take it off, but you can't lose it. It won't work without you because it's biometric.
Biometric.
So someone else can't use it.
Most importantly, you got to have something that you don't have to touch, but that works.
Yeah.
That will psychologically prepare a person to trust something of a more intimate manner, right? Something embedded. Like an earring.
Well,
who's out there complaining? Nobody complains about earrings. Nobody complains about contacts.
No. Nobody
complains about, anything that we do cosmetically. But here's the deal, Pastor Paul. Do you not know that if Satan were a true trickster, right? If the mark could be taken by absolute deceit, we'd all have the mark already.
Oh, that's absolutely,
right?
It's by choice. It's by choice.
Right. Because in a lot of, and they already told people that certain, I can't even go there because it deals with injections. Let's just say that they normally don't disclose the whole truth until years after it's done.
Yeah.
So, but that's the way I would do it, though, right?
Yeah.
But again, you have to take religion down a whole bunch of notches.
I agree.
How you take religion down, Pastor Paul, is you build up groups. You build up groups that will absolutely turn faith into tangible things. You have to get somebody around that will explain faith in such a way that people believe in the tangibility and the physicality of faith more than the spiritual side of it. Once you do that, you won. If you can get people to move away from that spiritual side of faith, you won. You got them. You got them right there, because you can make it anything you want to make it. You can explain it to them. And right now, one of the number one things a lot of Christians want, they want an explanation. And that is an issue. That's an issue, because it's very difficult for people these days just to believe by faith, right? I mean, the things in the Word, not people, but the things in the Word of God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's hard. People want to know why, right? They want to know how, because we live in a time where we have gadgets and we're trained to see how something works. And after we see how it works, then we trust it. We cannot trust it if we don't know how it works. We've been trained to think this way.
I think there's a couple of things that happen. That, number one, we trust Google more than God. And number two, the Word of God is being discredited. That's happening. It's being discredited. It's finding fault with it, or find fault with the 40 men that wrote it. Find fault with the translation. Find fault.
Contradictory text.
Yes. And so that's one thing they're doing. They've been doing that a long time now, discrediting the Bible. But then the second thing that's happening is people have been trained to believe. Just Google the question before praying to God. They go to Google. They actually have more faith in Google than God.
It's part of Satan's architecture.
Yeah, because I've been on here every day.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
I was going to say, in the 80s, when they started developing toys and electronics, it fascinated people, right?
Yep.
When man developed computers and computers worked pretty good, right? It psychologically embedded a thought in people's minds that man is capable of making something that is, really, really good, that you can trust. Because let's go ahead and face it, we trust our phones. Nobody picks up a phone and says, I don't know if it's going to work this time.
And they trust the AI that you can Google something. AI now pops up and gives you a quick summary before you ever get down to other websites, right?
Yeah. That's trust in technology, right? Mm-hmm. Which is actually trust in mankind.
Yes.
When you trust technology like that, you're trusting in mankind. When you trust in mankind, you'll start to doubt things of faith. When you doubt things of faith, then your foundation is going to be, prove it to me, right? That's just how it works. So this knocking down of faith, you can see it happening all over the place, because people don't talk about angels. They talk about UAPs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have more faith in angels, and they have way more faith in UAPs and aliens than they do angels. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, way more. Reminds me of that one scripture where God says men will no longer endure sound doctrine. Well, to endure means to continue to be in the presence of it, or to receive it. So they won't endure it, sound doctrine. But this is funny. It's this: they will heap to themselves. That means get a whole bunch of it and bring it close to themselves. A bunch of teachers, YouTube, with itchy ears. Now, itchy ears means, here's the deal, that they get to hear what they want to hear. Right. Yep. I can tell you something, Pastor Paul. I don't want to go to anybody and they tell me what I want to hear, because if that happens, I'm not learning. I want to go to somebody who's going to tell me something I do not want to hear. Right. That means I'm learning something I didn't know before.
Tell me the truth.
Because if I go to somebody and they're telling me what I want to hear, I'm not learning or growing at all. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, if I hear the truth, first of all, I don't want to hear all of it, because it's not going to settle. It's not going to complement my flesh in any way. Right. So, I'm just not that.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
When I do not, because if I heard everything I want to hear, That's just like hearing myself every single day. I don't want to hear myself at all, right?
No.
So that wouldn't work. But this generation is like that. They get to pick what they want to hear to suit their mood, and unfortunately, that's the way it is.
It's that's the way they're being conditioned. I mean, it's a masterful plan that Lucifer's doing to recondition the populace and to discredit the Word of God and discredit the messenger of the Word of God. That has to happen also. And to redefine religion. If you ever listen to Noah Harari, he is saying we have to redefine religion or faith, especially he means Christ. He's saying we have to redefine it. We have to ask AI to help us rescope this, to understand, to have a broader understanding. Basically, to believe a lie, they'll be damned. The Bible says that, for they will not endure sound doctrine, but heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. They'll turn their ears from the truth and be turned into fables. That's what you were quoting, unto fables. And what people today have more faith in fables than parables of Christ.
You know what's so interesting about that too, Pastor Paul? A fable is a story, right?
Yeah.
It's just a story. And it reminds me of the word called theory.
Okay. Yep.
A theory is like a story. It's an educated story. That's what we call educated guess. But it's still a theory. It's not a fact.
Right.
Right. Theories are not fact. Theories are theories until they're proven to be true, just like a fable.
Yes.
A fable is a fable until it's proven true, just like a theory. So the same thing that happened back then, same thing you just quoted, is underway right now. How many people don't even know they're affected? Wow.
Most.
I tell you, here's one way a person can tell. If they ever get bored with the gospel, something has gone wrong.
Well,
How
that's
can a
happening.
person ever get bored with the gospels? How can that ever happen?
Well, when you've been at some point when you've been conditioned to discredit the gospel, and they won't even sit down and read Matthew 5, 6, and 7. I always ask people, have you ever read the Sermon on the Mount? They don't know where it's at. Okay, it's Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Just go read it. Don't ask Chat GPT or don't ask Google just read what Christ said. It's the most powerful 3 chapters probably you'll ever read. And it's the most difficult to follow. Okay, you got to crucify the flesh. You've got to crucify your flesh to Christ to try to even come close to this, right? But at the same time, Christ is always exemplifying that mercy and grace to you the whole time as you're reading it and you're saying, "Oh yeah, oh that's me, oh yeah." God's love is still there, saying, "That's okay. You're here. You're learning. I want to love you. I want to give you the grace and the mercy." But if you never go there, you'll never know the goodness of God. You just won't know. And Mike, I hate to keep you here all night, but we could, because you're constantly dropping. We could. We would try to. I don't know if we could. I mean, you could always push that little button on that little wherever you're at. I mean, one of these days we're going to finally know where Mike. Somebody says to me, "Pastor Paul, do you know? Have you ever met him physically?" My answer is no.
I'm gonna be right there one day. I told you.
I know you told me that, and when it happens, I'm really going to be really a happy
just
guy.
Show up.
Just please do that, please. Okay.
We'll just show up.
All right. I look forward to it, Mike. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's an honor to have you. Thank you.
It's an honor to be here, Pastor Paul. God bless you, brother.
God bless you too. God bless.
All right. God bless.